Today we are joined with Robert Menard, I would say one of Canada's leading Freeman movement leaders. I first became aware of your work, I guess it was about 6-7 years ago now, when I first watched Bursting Bubbles of Government Deception, an excellent documentary. Why don't you tell some of the people a little bit about just the basics of what is the Freeman movement, and just tell people a little bit about what it's all about.
From my perspective is recognizing that we have a heart, and it's about choosing to follow your heart versus accepting government directives. Essentially what I see is the people in the government acting as public servants. These public servants are giving us orders and acting like they're in charge of us. By some legal mechanism, they have put themselves from a servant position to being in charge of us. And being a Freeman means rising above them in that hierarchy, so that once again we're masters over our servants. From what I see, it's kind of like they tricked us into begging for benefits, and by doing that we have given up that which is rightfully ours in exchange for what they're willing to dole out.
Something that intrigued me when I first watched your film was this concept of registering your child at birth. Can you just explain to the people a little bit about that process where people willingly register their children with the government?
What I found in my research, and I ask that anyone listening to this, do your own research, do your own due diligence, and look at the situation. And what I found was the act of registration, it required one to submit and to apply. And essentially what you're doing is you're signing over something to someone else so that they have a certain interest in it and power over it. Now it can be good if you trust the people with whom you're registering it so that they can protect it for you. But when they do it from deception, from a point of deception so that they can claim it and seize it from you, then there's a bit of a problem. What I found is that when you register something, you're creating a legal relationship, an association. You're signing over this child or this property or this car or this firearm. You're doing it perfectly voluntarily from their perspective, and you're granting them power over it.
Earlier today you were interviewed down at the CBC for CBC's The National. How do you feel that interview went?
I think it went pretty well. Adrian, she's a very good reporter. From what I understand, I really liked her spirit. She was fun to talk to. The experience was a positive one. I kind of sensed that she wanted a bit of a soundbite for me, and she was aiming to paint us as a potentially violent organization, or that we were paper terrorists.
Now, I'm not saying that we pick up arms and go out there and use them. I'm saying that there is a path where that is completely unnecessary.
But are you also saying that it's not out of the question that could happen? And that you think it's within your rights?
Historically, I think you would be blind if you didn't think that that's exactly what happens when you push any people too far. When the people in power start treading on the little guy, eventually the little guy fights back one way or another. The Freeman movement is about standing up and avoiding that by using words and making claims and filling our hearts with love and peace. It is not about picking up guns and going and bringing battle in a civil war.
I'm hopeful that she doesn't put that spin on the CBC's The National, whatever she does to bring the information to the Canadian public. I hope that she accepts her duty to do so with truth, and that she does not allow a story to come out that would paint us as potential or as violent. The proper Freeman path I see as the one where the government, who when you first wake up to it you think they might be your enemy and a hindrance to you, you put them in a position where they actually have a duty to help you.
Have you ever had any experiences of police officers who don't really understand this information and, don't really know how to deal with it? How do you deal with those situations, or how should Freemen deal with that?
Don't even look at them as a cop. Just look at them as a human being. All you're doing is meeting another human being wearing a funny costume who's pointing at a body of words which may or may not have something to do with you. But certainly he's operating on that belief. If you treat them with respect and dignity, and then you simply tell them, I can't tell them do or say any specific thing, except I suggest wishing them God's peace and asking them, do you claim or seek contract or conflict? But beyond that, in interacting with them, first and foremost, look at them as a fellow human being, as opposed to a cop. And if you can do that, then you're making it very easy for them to do the exact same thing.
For free men who are interested in getting more involved, do you have any suggestions or advice on how to begin to get more active in the movement?
If we can get enough people essentially shifting their mindset so that they no longer look at the government as someone who tells them what to do, but they tell the government what to do because they're our servants and we're in the position of master. Our government is archaic. It is no longer functioning properly. It does not represent us. You can't call it a democracy. It's a demockery. We're not being properly represented. We have the tools available now with the internet, with the minds that are available to create something right now, direct democracy using the internet essentially. We have that capability. We're allowing the money to be put in circulation with interest attached. The interest is not generated, it's not put into circulation, and there is no way you can mathematically tell me that makes any sense whatsoever, because fundamentally the guy playing the game on you ends up owning everything. We have the power to create our own funds, to create our own currency, if we just look at it as tools of exchange. There is clearly a way where we can do this without having to go outside of our country, ask people for money, invest in us, and then agree to give them back that money with interest. That is handing over your country piecemeal to that party. So we have to exercise that right to put our own currency into circulation without any interest attached.